Welcome my friends, this is Maniacal Incorporated and this is Let Them Trade, an economy and trade simulation set in a tiny little wooden world, watched over by a fearsome feline beast. A big thank you to the devs, Spaceflower, who sent me on a key to check this out. It's going to be launched on the 24th of July, and I've been playing through the tutorial, and part of the campaign. At the moment we're dealing with a monumental problem. The king has something really special planned, but some spoilsports aren't so keen on the idea. So the king is planning a big birthday for himself, and he's basically building quite a lot of infrastructure. Now, we're going to need some coal and metal. And to find some sources of coal, I'm going to click on the Castle Keep, which has a research center and a provisioner, which is purchasing potatoes and converting them into scout packages, and these can be fed to our brave knight, Sir Roderick. So here I'm going to set him to scout mode, and we'll get him scouting maybe in this direction for some coal. In the earlier campaigns, you're going to have to found your first cities yourself for your first areas by going to basics and build city center. There are 2 out of 4 constructed so far, so we can construct another 2. Let's take a look at what we have, however. We have Ravenspire. So Ravenspire is our wood center. We have 2 lumberjacks, we have 2 peasant homes, we have 3 peasant homes, and we have a sawmill. So the lumberjack takes 2 workers, and the houses provide 2 workers, and this sawmill also takes 2 workers. So at the moment we have enough housing to provide for all these jobs. Nobody has actually moved in yet, however. They require a source of wood and a source of potatoes to meet their very basic needs. Then, to increase their happiness, which will generate more trade income, we need to provide them with luxury resources. But for now, we will worry on getting the wood and the potatoes together. So this place is already handling the wood supply, which means that over in Fernshade we are getting our potatoes grown. So we have again some peasant homes and 2 potato farms. So this is the general recommended meta, is to get one area up and running handling wood production and another on potatoes, because if we click on Fernshade we have a set number of buildings that we can build. So here we have 5 out of the 7 that we're allowed to build. If we want any more, we're going to need to upgrade the village. Now with everything up and running, it's going to take quite a while before the potatoes, which are grown here in Fernshade, make their way to Ravenspire. So what we're going to do is help them out a bit by constructing some roads. So on the center of Ravenspire, what we can do actually is head... It's telling me here is probably the best area. So we'll bring the road across to here. We're going to have to build a bridge to take us across, and then another road down into what I think is the town centre, and we can see there to the top, brave Sir Roderick is unveiling some tiles for us. And we can also see that the first of our traders have begun to use our roads. So this guy is carrying 17 gold and is demanding, because it's kind of greyed out or it's kind of dark, demanding 10 wood. So they are going to come to Ravenspire, which is producing the wood. They're going to pick that up. They're going to turn around and take it back to the other town. And I presume that traders from here have also headed out in that direction looking for potatoes. And indeed there we can see somebody with 41 gold looking for potatoes. And all of these prices are set by the global supply and demand. And fair play to Sir Roderick, he's found some coal. First, we'll take a very brief look at the global supply and demand of goods. So if in the top left-hand corner I click on logs or wood, we can see that we are producing 21 in Ravenspire and supplying 2 to Fernshade, and that's giving us a global overproduction effectively of 19, and that is then affecting the price. The price is just 2 gold per wood and is actually dropping at the moment. On the other hand, if we take a look at potatoes, we can see that we're not producing enough to supply what is, in effect, global demand. It's not much of a globe, but this is effectively our global demand, and prices are high at the moment. We can actually see that the prices of planks, a very important resource, in constructing and upgrading buildings, that price is also being pushed up at the moment. And balancing the cost of goods is very important, because here in the top left hand corner is our budget, the actual player budget, which is used for constructing buildings at the castle and for buying upgrades. And we make money when trade is conducted. We get 25% of the income on each trade. So the higher the cost of these goods, the more money we're going to make. But also, the more money that the villages are going to have to spend from their personal reserves to upgrade buildings or to supply the needs of the people, possibly meaning that they won't have enough money, making the people unhappy. And it will also drive up the cost of researching new technologies. So here is the extensive research tree going all the ways up to aristocrats. We have goldsmiths, we have carpentry, we have armory at the top, and then down here we have some of the resources that we've started with. We've peasant homes, we've potato farms, lumberjacks, sawmills. We actually have quarry unlocked, as we can see with the tick next to it. Up here is coal mine, which would cost 104 currency at the moment if we were able to research it, but we have a few things that we need to get through first of all. So we're going to have to unlock stone toolmaker, which means that we need to get access to stone and wool. So just to the north of Rivenspire, we actually have a supply of stone. We could build another city up here to utilize the coal and the stone deposits in this city, so we would have this city basically as our kind of mining city. Now, as for the sheep, what I was hoping to do was find some fertile soil that can grow wool, potatoes, or wheat, but to find it next to mountains, because there's actually an adjacency bonus for building sheep farms next to mountains. For example, if we go to Rivenspire and click here on our lumberjack, we have the option of giving 15% output for every other building of the same type. So I'm going to click on that and click on that. There's also some upgrades for the sawmill, but we would need to actually level up the sawmill first of all. Our potato farms also have collective farming, 15% output increase. We can research an upgrade for the farms, and then we'll be able to build bigger fields, which will give us 1 extra peasant slot and 50% output increase. But I think we'll have to give up on our dreams of actually getting a dedicated mountainous sheep raising area. So I'm going to build a city right here. You can see that we can't put it within a certain distance of any other building that we have up and running. So I'm going to put it here. We're then going to put 2 peasant houses to start with. I'll put those up here. So the green arrow is showing its distance from the town center. And then we have our sheep farms. So you can see that we can't build them here on the beaches. Now we can see here that as the sheep farm is being built, it requires wood and planks, and it's going to get those from the other cities, and then it's going to be sending out requests for wood and potatoes as its basics, and it's going to be taking, if we look at a peasant home, it's going to be taking wool to supply the luxury needs. So we're going to have to get this hooked up to the global market. We're going to have to put a bridge down. Put that across here. And get our roads, actually connect that up. And we'll build around the castle. Considering that we also need a quarry, I'm going to build that here in Fernshade, and to supply it we'll put down another peasant house, because we've discovered a bit of an area over here with iron, with gold, with coal, and with clay. So a city popped down over here will supply us with all of the resources that we need. So as we're talking about building another city, which is going to require logs and it's going to require potatoes, let's take a look at upgrading our potato farm. So to bring this to level 2, which will give us an automatic 20% output once we actually build it on the potato farms, we're going to need 20 wood and 20 planks. So this has a cost of 142 at the moment. Now, when conducting research, that is conducted here in the castle, and we have to use our own finances to go out and purchase the goods that we need to do that research. So you can see here is the research center, and we also have resources. And what we have told the traders in the castle to do is to maintain in our stockpile a stock of 50 planks, 50 potatoes, and 50 wood. We've just finished our research on the potato farm. Looking at the global supply of goods, so this is the actual global supply. Here's the prices. We can see potatoes are going up in price because we have 0 at the moment. So what I'm going to do is, here is a potato farm. We will get that upgraded. Here is another one. We will get that upgraded. I can now switch to bigger fields. So what I'm also going to do is upgrade the peasant home, which will open up additional slots. Now, a large scale construction project like this can very quickly deplete global resources and drive up their prices. So that is something to watch out for. At the moment, we have a fairly well developed economy, but at the very start of the game, if you drop down a ton of buildings all at once, you can, and I know this from experience, you can drive up the price, especially of planks. I got that up to 200 once, over 200 coins per plank, and absolutely tanked my own stockpiles of currency. And now with the last of those peasant homes upgraded, we've had somebody move in automatically, so we're supplying them with wood, plenty of wood, and of course this is where the potatoes are grown, so I think they prioritize being delivered here first of all. We can now go to the potato farm and set it to bigger fields, so it will take one of the extra workers, and we'll get a 50% output increase instead of the collective farming. Checking here on Fernside, we can see that we have employed inhabitants, 7 of 8, which means that we have one person without a job, so we can put them there. Now, the other thing about Fernside is that we're starting to see the internal and external, so the internal transporters, there they go, bringing potatoes to the houses, they're under pressure. The external traders, who are sending out requests for wood, for planks, and for wool, they're under a bit of pressure. So what we can do is upgrade the village for 500 and 20 wood and 20 planks, and we'll get additional transporters, traders, and extra building space. And I'm also going to do the same here in Moonridge, and it's partially because of what they're complaining about. They don't have any fish, so we will prepare for that by upgrading the village, even though they're not under the same amount of pressure at the moment. So we've gotten those 2 villages promoted, but we can see that we have a new milestone, which is a kind of an optional challenge. Tax income, 133 out of 300, hold for 60 seconds. So at the moment, we are generating 135 coins per minute due to the global trade tax of 25%. So if we want to push that up to 300, what we need to do is drive more trade. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. One is to basically increase the population because they will need more and more goods. And another is to supply different types of assets. So another asset that is needed at the moment, we're told, is fish, and that is why I have upgraded Moonridge. This, however, will be nowhere near enough to push that up to anything near 300, but we'll get started anyway. We're going to put in a fishery. We're going to put in another fishery. And those spots are designated by the little wooden fish swimming around, so we can't build them in other places. So these are going to demand a total of 4 workers. We have this house, so I am going to upgrade these peasants, and then what we can do is build one more house with the workers for the other fishery. I've sped the game up a small bit, and the construction of the 2 new fisheries and the additional people here that need to have goods supplied to them, that has indeed pushed up our global tax income a bit. To push it up a small bit further, each fishery can get an upgrade, stronger fishing lines, if we supply them with wool. So this is going to increase the demand for wool. We can get bigger boats, which would use planks. It would slow down production time. And then steam engines, so with coal we could dramatically decrease production time. in our research tab, I'm going to line up a couple of things. I'm actually going to start getting a tavern up and running. And I could, from quarry, go straight to charcoal burning. So that would be one way of getting coal. Instead, I'm actually going to unlock stone tool makers. And you can see that we're up into a new section of the research tree, workers. So they require different types of housing and different types of goods to keep them happy. And above that then we have citizens, and at the very top, aristocrats. Now we're going to continue to mess with things here in Rivenspire. I'm going to upgrade a peasant house. I am going to upgrade a peasant house. We're going to build another peasant house. We will put you... I'm going to put you there. The way that I can build a tavern on the coast. Doesn't make an ounce of a difference. We can see that we're getting a bit of a warning because we have so many construction sites up and running, so there's going to be a fairly hefty demand. You can actually see that we have wiped out the entire global supply of wood, which is probably going to start to mess with the price. It's fairly low at the moment. The thing is that we're supplying, all those goods are actually being supplied internally. Now, if they were being supplied to construction sites elsewhere, we'd be making revenue from them, but it would also be actually impacting the global price. And that's one of the ways of driving up the tax income. Also contributing to tax income is this tavern, which we've just put up. So it needs 4 people to work in it, which is why I upgraded 2 homes and built a new one. And it's going to increase consumption. So again, affecting the global tax income, because that's all that matters. Now the game also simulates bandits attacking the trade routes. They just plank themselves down in the middle of the road and start attacking anything that comes near them. So our knights and troops that we train in our barracks that you assign to the knights need to go out and fight them. I haven't seen any. I thought they'd pop up on this mission, but they haven't. So next we're going to go for the coal mine, which is more planks and stone. And while we're getting that built, we might as well totally screw with the global economy. Put down our 4th city centre. We can connect that up. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And we'll get the 2 houses in. So I need to put one here. You can see that I can't put something over here separated by a square. It has to be adjoining the existing city. So if I put this here, I could now put one down there if I wanted to. But it will go nowhere because we have run out of money. So yeah, a mad construction drive has bankrupted the kingdom. The numbers are picking up slowly but surely. What we could do, however, is Moonridge has a nice stockpile. We could ask them for a friendly donation. Collect 1,000 coins from the city. They would be unhappy for 5 minutes, or we could instead donate. So if there was a city that we built and it was losing money because it wasn't producing anything, like, oh, I don't know, this one over here, we could instead gift them 1,000 to keep them going. Now, even though we are keeping global supply, okay, never mind, we've just completely ran out of wood, but I was going to say, even though we are actually keeping the global supply some way solid, the prices are beginning to drift up. So this was at 1 once upon a time, now up to 10. Potatoes have gone up to 6, so we are seeing the prices wobble around the place. I completely forgot that we don't even need this peasant, but we put him in here anyway. It's actually a worker house that we need, so I'm going to put that there. And we're going to put this coal mine down here over the coal. And this worker's house requires the same as basic needs, as the peasants, wood and fish. However, it's going to want bread and clothing for its luxury needs. And once you meet the luxury needs, they pay additional coins to the city, which we could then use by maybe sticking in a tavern to generate more consumption. Consume, consume, consume. You will own nothing, but you will eat fish. Now, we're really close to getting that golden statue up and running, but let's see if we can mess with the global economy a small bit. Here is Fern Shade, so what I'm going to put in is another peasant house and a wheat farm. In Rivenspire, I'm going to build a worker's house and a mill. And after a severe global wood and potato shortage, which shut down the production of coal, in Moonridge we place a worker's house and a bakery. Mother of God, but you take away an Irishman's Spuds and everything comes to a halt. So there was basically 0 potatoes, and you can see at the moment that there's 0 wood. That was the big issue, because I was trying to construct a coal mine, and there wasn't enough wood to actually reach the cities. So nothing was getting to Driftmoor, and anything that was getting in here was being consumed by the houses. So 0 production had been done on the coal mine, until I went into the research tree and basically got the upgrades for level 3 potato farms and level 3 lumberjacks and upgraded everything that we have to those levels. For the lumberjacks as well here in Rivenspire, so I haven't actually constructed any additional lumberjacks because we don't have the room in the city with the big tavern, the houses and the sawmill. But this lumberjack is on the forester. It's not an upgrade, I think it's called a module or something like that. So 1 extra peasant slot. The one here, however, is on the 50% output by being next to a production building that uses wood, and that is the sawmill. So by placing the lumberjacks next to sawmills, you can actually get the best upgrade for them. So it's the same as this one, but you don't need 3 peasants. So 2 peasants and you still get the 50% output. And it actually popped off there while I was being distracted by my wood. 380 coins per minute on the 25% global income. And the reason for that is because Fernshade is producing wheat, which Rivenspire is purchasing to convert into flour, which Moonridge is purchasing to convert into bread, which is then being sold for nothing, not generating income here in Moonridge, but the workers in Rivenspire, in Fernshade, and Driftmoor are then purchasing that bread. So if that entire chain had been centralized in a single city, one city with the growing the wheat, turning it into flour, and then turning it into bread, we wouldn't be getting all that juicy trade. Right, so after all that, we might as well actually do the mission that we were here to do. So where are we going to place this giant statue? Do you know what? We might as well here in Fernshade, our great potato city. We will build a statue for the king. Now, we're told that we're going to suffer some unhappiness, but as you can see, we are absolutely powering through the building because it doesn't require potatoes or wood, which are things that we are in short supply of. Worthless coal, we have tons of that. We have stockpiles of that. If you tried to get me to build a statue out of potatoes and wood, we would have been in trouble. After another severe lumber shortage, I've managed to start on the second phase of the statue's construction, which requires iron. And I've actually had to build another lumberjack, this time in Driftmoor itself, to provide lumber to Driftmoor, because I couldn't get anything in there to build either the iron mine or the workers' accommodation for the iron mine, or even to build the lumberjack itself. Everything out of Rivenspire was being consumed in the other major cities before it made it to Driftwood. So what I did was, under the resources tab in the castle keep, I actually set the castle to buy as much wood as possible. So it's right next to Rivenspire, so it got the wood quickly, and I was then able to trade resource with other cities and select Driftmoor. Now Driftmoor is actually able to sell us wood, but I was able to sell all that wood directly to Driftmoor. So I was able to buy it in directly from Rivenspire, sell it directly to them, and finally get those buildings built. And what we also saw there was what happens when we become too heavily dependent on one single location to supply an essential resource, in this case, wood. So we became totally dependent on Rivenspire. I could get nothing across to Driftmoor. We're now up onto our final bit of construction. We need a gold mine to supply the gold for the statue. And what I've done here in our iron mine is I've used this outsourcing, which removes the 2 worker slots and puts 2 peasant slots there instead. So instead of having to build another worker's hut, I've built a peasant hut. The peasants can take over this place, I don't care about it, and the workers that were working here previously will now go to the gold mine. And there we go. After a lot longer than was expected, we have finished the king's golden statue. Look at it, shiny, golden, and ravishingly handsome. And the king is thinking of passing a law that would make all school children visit the statue and gaze upon it. And after all the time and effort and spuds and fish and timber that went into it, I agree with that idea. So for now, we'll call it there. I've only just realised that this looks like County Clare. Maybe that's County Clare, and that's a bit of the north of Kerry. The next scenario is uninvited guests. There is still a lot to do before the tournament, so he's trying to hold a big tournament and making us basically finance it through the economy. And there are rumours that some unsavoury fellows have been poking about. I presume this one is going to have bandits in it. Now, as well as the campaign, the game has a number of scenarios that you can play through, set in various different locations. And if those aren't to your liking, there is the option to create your own maps on the table, laying out piece by piece by piece, building your own starting cities if you wanted to do so, with access to all of the various industries that the game provides. So there is plenty to keep you entertained in the wooden world of Let Them Trade. If you want to check out the game yourself, there is a demo linked below in the description, and the full game will be coming out on the 24th of July. A big thank you again to Spaceflower for sending me on a key to check this out. If you do try it, let me know how badly you manage to screw up your economy. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again in future.